and welcome to Affected, a podcast from Meet. For those of you who don't know Meet, we are a global life sciences talent provider. We've been connecting the industry for over a decade, and now we want to share some of our insights and experiences with you. We'll be hosting monthly episodes, sharing thoughts from our leaders and industry professionals about job hunting and hiring in life sciences, as well as giving our network a platform to share their own experiences of building successful careers in an industry that affects us all.
Hey guys, and welcome to a super spooky episode 5 of the Affected podcast. As always, I am your host, Owen, and today I am joined by the Queen of Learning, our L&D superstar, Lauren Ware, who has flown out all the way from San Francisco.
Thank you.
And all the way from a couple of desks behind me, I have Eve Coxter, who is our
Queen of Talent.
Queen of Talent.
Or Internal Recruitment.
Yeah,
Either or.
Either or. And our princess?
Yeah, that seems fitting.
Another member of our amazing L&D team. Best in class L&D team, I would say.
Thank you, and that's so kind.
That is kind.
Today we're talking about the scariest of all the topics, which is employee unsatisfaction.
I think it's dissatisfaction.
I do words.
Well, I don't know how it is here.
You know, I write for a living, and this is
dissatisfaction.
And sort of how the onboarding process can lead to better employee satisfaction and in turn retention, because it costs more money to hire someone than it does train someone, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Right.
Looking at onboarding, what damage can sort of a bad onboarding process have on not only an employee but their employer?
I would say you're not really setting a good expectation for when people start a role. If the onboarding isn't good enough, they might not really know what's expected of them, what they can expect from the job, roles, responsibilities, standards in an office environment, for instance. That's what comes to mind for me.
I also feel like people probably don't do it wrong. They might just have like a lack of much onboarding. So I think for us, like, obviously training is really important. Mm-hmm. So how are they going to do their job, do it effectively? So if people don't really feel like comfortable, like they were set up to succeed for when they start their new role, then like that can affect morale. It can affect also like the team, like their manager, their teammates. If they're having to pick up all the slack, then it could take away from their business as well, which can, affect the company as a whole.
Ultimately, if people aren't welcomed, they aren't integrated, then within a really short period of time they'll probably realise that and make a move. Yeah. So I think something that we've done at Meet is really making sure that the expectations are set really early on, as you alluded to, but I think they know sort of from the first interview what that interview process looks like, all the way through to their first day at Meet and their first few weeks, which lends into internal recruitment and training really nicely, I would say.
Would you say that's sort of not just from a technical standpoint, but also like a cultural level as well? I think that's one of the things that we do really well here. When I was onboarded here by Glenn and Georgie, that I knew what kind of culture Meets was trying to build and had built. How important do you think that is, as well as the the technical learning aspect?
Massively. I think like from their first conversation with an internal recruiter, sort of setting the scene, where could they be working, the values of the business, all the way through to the turning up on their first day, being sort of part of an academy, getting to know their colleagues. Here at Meet, we do a lot of socials and incentives and things, so knowing that they can quickly integrate, I think, is a big part.
And like one of our first modules that we do in the academy is vision, mission and values as well. So not only do you kind of get that feel from the people that onboard you, but there's also an entire module that will also kind of go into what to expect from like the cultural side, as well as the mission of the company as well.
We're like a small business, so each person is like a high percentage of our culture, and it kind of starts from day one. So they need to know like what culture we're going for in order to contribute to it, but also just like that realization of like you're a part of it, you're not just experiencing it, you're a part of it from when you start.
And it comes at essentially the most important time of sort of like an employee's life cycle, right at the beginning. I think the statistic is the first 45 days of someone's tenure at a company is the most
like volatile, right?
Yes.
They're more likely to leave.
Yeah. So it's the most volatile time in someone's...
It's a test period.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. But once you've hired someone, you might as well invest in them.
Definitely.
right? Because the cost of bringing someone, I mean, we all know we work in recruitment, the cost of bringing someone else on is expensive in today's world. So in your opinion, your professional opinions.
I'll keep my personal opinions to myself.
They're aligned.
What are the key elements to sort of a comprehensive onboarding process? You know, what contributes to the success and sort of longevity of a new hire?
Well,
I think like them being able to bring their whole selves to work, be themselves, be honest, open with their manager or team is a big part of that. I think from an internal recruitment perspective, like them knowing what they're getting into in terms of what that training period looks like. I think something we're really good at is like this whole blended learning piece where whoever's joining the business, and whatever their learning style, they're able to integrate really easily and quickly. They've also got a buddy system in place, so I think, I don't know quite if that answers the question that you were asking, but...
there's something kind of like awkward, I think, starting a new job, or at least like, maybe it's just awkward for me, but there's something like vulnerable about it, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like being the first, like, or new kid at school type of thing.
It does feel like that first day.
So if you don't really know like what to expect, which we try to set the expectations pretty clear, like, well, you would be doing that before they join, of like, you're going to have a training program. We try to have it where people join with others, so they have like a bit of a cohort, which can't always happen, but like, it's just a little bit of a better experience, I think. So they can learn with other people who are kind of in the same boat as them. So, and a lot of times they're not on the same team either. So then it kind of integrates them with other people on different team members because they'll, go to their own teams.
Yeah.
But if you know what to expect, then like that first day when you're walking in, it's like who's going to meet you, probably what you're going to do. You might have even gotten more of an idea of your schedule for the whole week, actually. So you're not just kind of sat there at your desk
surprises.
being like, who's going to take care of me? Like, who's telling me what to do? What should I be doing? Am I like doing this right? Because we're never going to miss everyone's onboarding is paperwork, like those kinds of things on the first day, and that's kind of like some of the boring, necessary admin stuff, but it's really like past that. Someone's second day, they're still brand new, the paperwork's done, but it's like, where do they kind of go from there? How do they get integrated?
Yeah, they've got to be really well informed and throughout the whole entire process, I think.
Yeah, I think transparency is key as well with onboarding. Like that ties into what you said about expectations, but also just kind of we've all been in that situation before as well. So maybe kind of like demonstrating that as someone who is helping on board, and just being like, look, we've all been there. Treat them as humans because they are humans.
When you were talking about sort of that timeline, and it's you get the paperwork and your sort of benefits package on the first day. I think a survey was done with a bunch of HR professionals, and the consensus answer was that onboarding should take 3 months. The onboarding process should be a three month process. In order to really understand exactly what's expected of you within your company, it's going to take much longer than it is shorter. So I think investing in like a good L&D platform, for example, and an onboarding process is imperative to the success of someone at their new business.
Yeah, I think also it's interesting that you've mentioned obviously about the platform as well. Like it's all well and good having people aiding your onboarding and like you said, the paperwork that kind of comes as a given, but the fact that we do have an L&D platform that also assists so that even if someone can't be there to answer a question for someone who started, there is usually a source that they can find on this platform which will give them some idea even if they can't speak to a colleague who's on the phone, for instance. So I think having a platform like that also is really important to help with, I guess, just the fillers if there's not someone around, or if you just want a quick answer, or they're a self-starter and want to find it themselves, like rather than having to ask a million questions in your first couple of months as well.
It's actually really interesting to say that. Another study, I read a lot of studies.
You've done your research.
I do research, like I've hosted 5 of these now. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the statistic, but it was quite a high percentage of people who spoke on their sort of exit interview said that lack of communication with their line manager was one of the biggest reasons for them leaving their company. sort of expand on that, do you think?
Yeah, I think we're quite lucky here, I guess, in the fact that a lot of our managers have started as rookies here. So they've worked their way up, they've gone through the Meet onboarding process. And not to say that if a manager comes in that it's any different, but they've all started somewhere, right? So it means that they can relate to somebody when they're starting out. And I think we do have that level of transparency. We're all technically, all the recruiters are technically doing the same job. So I think there's not this kind of managers shut away in a separate office, like we have an open floor. There's a lot of open communication here. So I like to think that the fact that everyone's been in that position once helps bridge that gap a little bit.
Yeah, and we work with, L&D kind of sets part of the onboarding plan along with HR, but as they go into their training program, we kind of set the expectation too of what we're helping them with, what the manager is going to help them with, what kind of communications need to happen, so they start to get in a good flow from when they start. But I mean, yeah, people that work at Meet are good people persons. I like to think that they're good managers as well.
Yeah.
With communication, the whole job's all about communication. But I mean, I totally agree. I think who you're reporting to
makes such a difference.
Yeah, it just makes a big
to
difference.
longevity in a company.
Yeah.
And I think it's something like 90% of people left their previous company because of their manager.
Yeah.
And I think what Meet also makes sure that we're setting people up who step into management with the training, the resources to basically allow them to be the best managers, and equip them with the people skills. Where I think too often, I mean, from an internal recruitment perspective, I'm speaking to a lot of experienced recruiters and experienced professionals, and if they're having that conversation with me, the chances are their foot's already halfway out the door, and I think what we've tried to do is basically equip everyone with the right sort of tools to make them great managers. But it does lead into communication as well, doesn't it? Yeah.
And that process, that the great onboarding process, that starts before your first day, right? I remember I had conversations with yourself and my line manager at the time, sort of 2 weeks before I even stepped foot in the building. Do you think that's an important aspect of that?
Oh, it's a massive part of it, and it's all about the touch points. I think yes, there's you can go from sending out a contract, getting that contract signed, to might be a month before that person starts, or even longer than that. And I think ultimately as many touch points as you can have, and I know at Meet we're really big on inviting people for lunch or getting them involved in the socials and the incentives and things that we are running, because we want people to feel integrated and from the very moment that they decide that we're the right place, to really have that sense of belonging and sort of stick with us, essentially.
Yeah.
I think one thing that makes that process a lot harder, and I think we got a little bit better at it over COVID, was the fact that a lot of us operate in this hybrid to fully remote model now. How do you onboard someone that you never really see?
Ooh, that's a tough one, but I think everybody who cares about onboarding had to adapt to this process, right? But I think a lot of it is constant touch points. We have Zoom and Teams platforms, which we literally use for our everyday jobs now anyway. So they definitely got utilised way more. And I think, just open communication on the phone, not everything just being done via email. And that's my question. That's my answer.
I mean, we try to invest in the right technology to get people to have the best remote experience that they could. So for instance, in our conference room, we have a conferencing system to bring people in via video that has the right microphones and things so people can actually participate. They're not just watching other people in a training room. But I mean, when we had a big period of time, at least on the West Coast, where we were fully remote. So I think that helped us get the right systems in place to be able to make that work. And we did all of our, we were still hiring during that time, so we did all of our onboarding training and stuff remotely, and it worked well. I think people have to be ready to participate, because sitting on a Zoom video is boring, but we make everything really interactive so people can still learn in the same way that they would if they were in person.
Yeah.
And that's
also providing the supporting material to go with that. I feel from the very day that they sign the contract all the way through to being sat in that training room, you've got to have the right PDFs, the right documents to kind of follow up on just the Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Ultimately, nothing will beat face-to-face onboarding and interaction, will it?
Any kind of interview, it's all yeah.
Well, that's a good point. Like we also, I think, over the last few years have massively increased like our resources, which is like, you know, you can sit in a training, but especially if you're learning a bunch of new things, if you're new to this type of job, it's hard to remember everything. You need things to reference. You want to be able to listen to calls. That's where having an LMS platform comes into play. But yeah, we've made PDFs and things to go along with the training so that people don't feel like they listen in a training and then they have one every day and they learn all these new things, and then it just, the retention starts to slip. So and we try to give people an opportunity to practice too in like a low stakes environment. I think that's always nice when you're learning something new. Like we do role plays and practice.
Make it stick, with the modules and things. It's so important, isn't it? Because you couldn't sit, as soon as they close the laptop, potentially that's them checking out of it. And I think you want the strong follow-up, the PDFs, the modules, the constant conversations, how are you going to implement it, where have you shown us that you can do that?
Yeah, because it's a lot of information otherwise.
Definitely. And like, as much as it is good to have like a cohort, they hopefully start with other people as well, there's always one-on-one trainings as well. So even if maybe there is a big group and people are kind of over Zoom, like they're virtual and they might not kind of be able to contribute maybe as much as they are in person, they will always have like that one-on-one support from L&D as well.
Yeah, with coaching and things, yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, Lauren's based on the West Coast out in San Francisco, and you're based over here in sunny London.
I am.
Do you ever think that that there are time zone issues that can sort of affect that process at all?
I think actually we work quite well with it. I think obviously there is an obvious time difference. We don't have as much overlapping working hours as probably we would like to, but we're both busy both ends as well. Obviously we have the luxury of having you here for a long time, which has been lovely.
Such a luxury.
But I guess it's like the new norm. I'm sure we're not the only company that are operating in that way. We have global offices, so with that, it kind of comes with the territory sometimes that your manager might not be based in the same office, but I think we make it work.
I also think everyone in the operations team is pretty like self-sufficient. Like we all know what we're here to do. We've got a bit of a plan. And so not having those hours and hours of overlap, it's not always the end of the world. But then maybe if you were being onboarded as a junior person, it would be a slightly different story, right?
But we onboard people regionally anyways, so we're not really having, the only real time zone difference is like Berlin to London, which is an hour, so I think that's all
and
good for them.
Been an issue.
Yeah.
I would say.
So we were talking about role plays and things to keep engaged, and stories are a big part of that. So do you guys have any successful onboarding stories that spring to mind over your time here at Meet?
Successful onboarding. I'd like
everyone
to
that's here.
Everyone
that's here is a success story. I couldn't possibly pick one.
I can see.
I guess anyone that was hired during COVID and is still here surely is a testament to the strength of the onboarding, right?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
That's my answer. I wasn't even here.
Did we have many sort of jump on during that early sort of phase of?
Yeah, we definitely did. We definitely did. There are a number of people that have stayed and have sort of built themselves really fruitful careers. But I think ultimately, anyone that joins me has to be adaptable. Like especially in the current market, we're all sort of everyone's sort of adapting and willing to change.
Yeah,
open to change, basically. There's not one that springs to mind, but across London, Berlin, there are tons of examples.
Trying to think if there's something. I feel like everybody's doing well that's gone through onboarding. So I do think before we had L&D, we had a couple trainings. We didn't have structure. It would have been before you guys. But when I started as a recruiter, I didn't have an onboarding program. I ended up doing fine, right? You figure it out, but I think I'm the type of learner who I want to be taught the information, sit with it. I want to watch other people do it before I jump in. So if you hand me a phone on the first day and you're like, go be a recruiter and learn by failing, that's not really how I learn. And some people do learn that way. We try to kind of
Blended.
do like tailored to everyone, where our training program speaks to a lot of different learning styles. But I guess it's almost the opposite of what you're saying. Like, an example of, it wasn't a rough onboarding for myself, I would say. It was fine, but like I would have appreciated having more structure, more information, because that's how I like to learn. And that's what that's what I was excited to do this role, because I could help build that for our company. And we've come a really long way. Now we have 3-month onboarding, just like they recommended.
It's almost like I planned.
Like, I had recruitment experience. I hadn't really done like a full L&D role before, and I had no exposure to life sciences before. So, to enable myself to then teach people about life sciences, I obviously had to get up to speed quite quickly. And I felt like there were, no end of resources and people to lean on for that information. So, I can definitely vouch for it from that perspective as well.
So, finally.
Finally.
Like we're trying to get out of here. No, this has been a blast.
You look thrilled to be here.
People all say this. This is just my face. I was born.
I've got that same problem.
looking
Don't worry.
miserable.
Video.
Face for radio. Wait, what?
If only we were recording this, videoing this.
We are recording this. After all this,
Could you
Did I press
imagine?
record?
I could never do this again.
Oh, no.
Imagine. No, I like to think I'm good. I was onboarded well enough to do well at my job here.
I don't see a red light.
There's no red light on that camera.
No, don't say that.
It's fine. Go on.
I know at some point you, out of all people, would throw this into absolute disregard.
Chaos.
When we're thinking about good practices within sort of a comprehensive onboarding experience, what would you look to if you could sort of have like a tick box, not tick box sort of list of things that you would say are crucial to a new hire's sort of potential and moving forward?
Be welcoming.
Yes. Sounds
With that smile.
simple,
With that
but
smile.
like crack a smile. Go
Yeah.
on, introduce yourself.
Be welcoming.
Yeah.
Encouraging being together, I think, is
Yeah.
the big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, socialization's
Yeah.
like so important, right?
Absolutely, and also that's like part of the recruitment kind of can't think of the word, culture anyway, is that you want to go somewhere. That I guess one thing that everyone has in common is that we're people, right? They
Yeah,
couldn't be
yeah,
without
for sure.
to do their job without being that. So like, let's also be people to each other as well.
yeah.
I know you're on the phone all day, but
Also, like, expectations need to just be set from the
Yeah.
off. Like, what work days do we work in the office? What hours? What are the expectations?
Like
when
dress
How do you
code.
conduct yourself in the office? Like, the things that you would think are really basic, but actually super
Yeah.
important,
Yeah.
just so that people know where they stand.
Yeah.
Because people don't
when
want to
they're
get that
doing
wrong,
business.
and they don't want to be guessing either.
Yeah.
So it's like you can expect, somebody could just look around and be like, okay, this is maybe what the dress code is, but it's nice to just be like,
Have it
okay,
outlined.
yeah, just so people feel comfortable that they're like following the
Yeah.
standard.
I also think like expectations around how your performance is measured, when, what that looks like.
Like, how do you know if you're on track?
Yeah.
Because when you're learning, it feels
good
like
looks
you're like, when do I become good? Am I just as good as somebody else that's like only 2 weeks into the job, or am
Yeah.
I falling behind? So we have good measures for that.
Definitely.
I think also like knowing who to turn to for certain questions, we try to make that pretty clear. Luckily, when somebody starts, they get an L&D shaman. We a lot of times end up being the person that, at least when I was doing onboarding, I was always like, come to me with whatever question, I can direct you, or be like, okay, if you have a question about benefits, this is the right person, so that people kind of feel like they're not having to turn to one person for everything, or they have like a dedicated person to help them, and that you're not bothering them by asking questions. I feel like, constantly saying like there's no stupid questions. We know like sometimes people don't know what certain things are, which is fine, especially if they're new to the industry or new to recruiting, or maybe this is their first job out of college. Like, you need to feel like make people feel comfortable to actually ask questions and get answers.
Yeah. Like, you don't
Transparency
know.
is key, right?
Sorry, you go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's all about transparency, right?
Yeah.
In that regard, sort of knowing what good looks like. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, like I say, this is recruitment, especially, is a lot of people's first jobs, and sort of being in a working environment that isn't a lecture hall or a study centre. It's sort of knowing what good practice looks like, right?
Yeah, I think we are very good at kind of ensuring that everybody knows what the expectations are from day dot, but also I think we kind of alluded to this earlier, like you don't get neglected as soon as 3 months is up, right? Like you're supported by L&D and by HR and by, still even internal recruitment all the way through your career here. So I think that's also an important point to make, is that you're not just kind of like left to go off into the wild by yourself once 3 months has passed. Like we're here to support you along the entire journey, I guess, here at Meet.
They're probably done with our support.
Yeah, they're probably like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
I think also worth noting, businesses have to make this commitment to onboarding in order to retain and keep their staff. I mean, Meet, as you said from when you started, like the training hasn't always been the way that it has been set out. So a lot for us is about like talking really openly, getting feedback. Sort of, we've got an incognito platform that allows our employees to put their feedback on there, just so we know kind of if they feel too awkward to feedback to their managers or people around them. But it's a whole process. A company has to commit if they want to retain. It's essentially
it's the first impression. Like people, I know it's different here. But like in the U.S., it's all at will employment. Like yes, you signed a contract. Yes, you want to join. Yes, you want to be committed. But the fact of the matter is, like, it's a testing period. Like if people don't like it, they don't feel supported, like they can leave. So and people will if they don't feel supported. So you have to be able to invest in the people that you're bringing on. We work so hard to find them, to coordinate with them. Yeah. We want to invest in them, make sure they're having the best experience, and we want that first impression to be good, not jumbled, not chaotic. I'm being chaotic right now. I got caught in my wire.
Always chaos.
But yeah, as much as I love chaos, I would say onboarding chaos I don't love.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it just is if you feel pulled every which way, you didn't know where to go, someone was going to meet you at the door and they didn't, so you were sitting there for an hour, then you're going into this vulnerable situation where now you're new, you're already feeling like the nerves are up. So let's take care of them as best as we can.
You only get one chance to make a first impression, right?
True.
We teach that to our recruiters as well, so we better practice what we preach.
Exactly.
And from a business standpoint, it's just so expensive to keep hiring new talent because you can't retain it. It's a lot of money. It makes sense for you to just invest a little bit in L&D, in IR, and get your people sort of onboarded properly, part of the team, part of the culture, and hopefully retain them for a long time, rather than sort of having these 3-month hiring cycles where people kind of fall out of love with what you're trying to do, and you have to bring another 8 new starters on, and it's costing a ridiculous amount of money. I want to leave with a quote. I enjoy a quote. I probably don't have the best voice for it. I'm feeling a little bit croaky today. Onboarding is an opportunity, not a checklist.
Ooh, I love it.
It's an opportunity.
Hit
Seize
the nail
the
on the
opportunity.
Yeah.
I like to think we're seizing the opportunity.
I want to say thanks to you guys, because
Thank you.
You make it a lot easier.
The nerves, they did go.
No, the only thing that made this easier was that the camera is kind of far
really
away.
far
So
away.
you can't even see it.
Yeah.
I definitely looked in it about 3 times, so I apologise.
That's fine.
We're not supposed to look at it?
We're not supposed to.
I don't know, I'm
It's
trying to be
fine.
natural.
I can't make eye contact at all.
Do we need to do that again? No, okay.
Oh, thank
Even the
God.
part where I was like,
No, I was like, you make it easier. We don't want to be here. We do want to be here.
want
We
to
do
be
want to be here, we're
Our
just
onboarding
nervous.
was incredible.
This is
We-
my first
good at our jobs,
podcast.
just
I was
not
kind of
necessarily
hoping we
at
could do sorry, I just keep wanting to show off
Lauren's got
my
Lauren's got
skeleton
some-
leg.
Gloves on. Gorgeous.
Chaos.
Oh,
There we go.
Yeah.
So chic. This is the kind of fun you can expect if you come and join us.
If you came to work here.
no,
What-
I'm very boring. I was hoping, have you seen those podcasts where it's they're really mean to each other and they try to be as awkward and straight-faced as
Yes!
possible?
We
To be
should
like,
have
oh,
done that.
I'm so glad you dressed up to meet with me today.
Do you think I'd be good at hosting one of those?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're quite a satirical person, I feel.
I don't know what that says about me or my personality, to be fair.
I would roll with it.
You've got a great personality.
I hope that gets included.
I think
Okay, you guys just left me out to dry. You're all like. I know
Okay,
I'm not meant for
ideas.
camera unless you're literally looking for weird bloopers.
Yeah, well, there you go. Gag reel.
it helps for the end of year
Yeah.
wraps, to be fair.
Brilliant.
Thanks, guys.
Can't wait.
What have we got
you.
planned for the rest of the day? What's Halloween looking like here at Meet London?
Fun.
Lots of treats,
Yeah.
no tricks, sweets for breakfast.
Sweets
Sweets for breakfast. Who can complain?
That's going to set us up
A
couple
well
of
for the end
sword
of the day.
fights.
Couple of sword
Couple of
fights.
sword fights, just the usual.
We have Lola, the dog, who's
Lola.
running around. Oh,
Dressed in a matching Chicago Bears.
It's going to be
She's not
busy,
bothered.
is all we can say.
Yeah. As our guest here from the sunny West Coast, I feel it's only fair that you sign us off and say goodbye to our adoring subscribers and likers and fans.
Okay, great. Thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, we want to. we want to see you. Show your face.
Yeah.
Make a
And
video
we'll
reply.
treat you to our onboarding process.
Yeah, we'll have a treat.
Who do I get on next week is
Trick or treat.
the important question.
What do you mean?
what did you say?
Who are the next? who
Oh,
should
like
the
you could
next-
say, stay tuned for next week's episode. Make sure and like and subscribe, and put a comment on what you like the most about the
This video.
podcast.
Yeah.
No problem.
Are you a YouTuber?
I think
Yeah,
she
make
might
sure you press the bell and subscribe. I see that only 20% of my watchers are subscribed, and that's not going to pay my bills.
Bye, guys.